Hey guys, it's me again, Orxler with this. Where we last left off, let's see, checking. Where we last left off, Deku and Tsuyu were on their date. Kevin, not Kevin, sorry. Sludge, Jackster, and Looney were talking with Gangorka about how they could exactly get Sludge to get back into the villain game, let's say. Gangorka explained that even after taking all the Yakuza bosses down, they haven't quite yet figured out what's happening with the rest of the gangs. So they've all sort of gone underground. Now, Gangorka thinks that there has to be some power struggles going on in the Underdark. So he's suggesting Sludge find out how they're doing so that way he can work his way in there to take control of several of the groups. Jackster and Looney agree with this, so they'll ensure to keep Deku out of the loop, so that way he doesn't try to drag Sludge back out of it. Now we cut back over to Tsuyu and Deku. They're on their date. It's actually going really, really well for them. So we're going to continue on with the whole story. Sorry. Just for some reason. Again, like coughing and stuff like that. Much just a bit dry throat. I had burritos for tonight. They're actually really good. Anyways. Deku and Tsuyu, march on with their whole dating and such, and Deku had a place where they sat down and ate for a bit, and now they've moved on from it. So Deku's just like, what do we do now? I did not plan this far ahead. As in, you got like Kevin and all them who are watching Tsuyu and Deku, and it's like, this boy's lost, we gotta help him. He's like, I don't think I've said this in the thing before, in the episode before, but they were like going on ate dinner and stuff like that. As I was talking about, Kevin's like, all right. As he's like, all right, I'll just give him a call. He's like, all right, Deku. Hey, Deku, can you hear me? As Deku's like, oh, give me a second. So he's like, yeah. It's just like, all right, Deku, listen here. So, you got anything else planned? As Deku's just like, no. It's just like, oh, frick. It's like, Abugo, guys, do you know of anything that's happening recently? It's like, as they're thinking about this, like, they got Deku's, what is it? He believes in God and all that, right? He's like, yeah. It's like, well, I heard, because I actually got interested in it because of Deku. Don't shut up. As Grundy was about to say, wait. As Grundy's actually bringing the one up about church, and it's like Grundy was looking up church thing boss talks about now and then. As he's like, Grundy, your interest is like quiet. He's like, there is late night service at such and such church. As he's like, alright, you could take her to a church service. It's nice. As Grundy says, Grundy went. It is very beautiful and calming. As it's like, yeah, what Grundy said. Do you hear that? It's like, yeah, you sure that's a good idea? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, Tsuyu and I never really, as this is Habuko, she's like, Tsuyu and I never really talked about religion or anything like that, but I didn't really ask, so maybe she would like it, I don't know. Like, he's like, alright, he's like, Kevin, what are you saying I should do? It's just like, take her to church service. It's nice, little one going on, whereas Grundy repeats the word. As he says, alright, as Grundy repeats it to him, as Deku's like, there's a church service going on around there. As she's like, Midoriya, you taking me to church? It's just like, as she's looking him dead in the eyes, as he looks away for a second, she's like, you did not plan this out, did you? He's like, no. He's like, was that Kevin in them? He's like, yes. As he's just rubbing the back of his head as he's like, oh. She's like, I was always curious what it was like. Deku hears this and like, yeah, then let's go. She's like, is there anything I should know about this service? It's like, Grundy didn't say anything. And she's like, wait, Grundy was the one who told you? And he's like, I know. As Deku's like, I know. Like, I've talked to him about it, but I never expected him to do anything about it. And she's like, no offense, Midoriya, but Grundy seems like the kind of guy to, how would you say, jump in right behind you. As Deku's like, you got a point there. He's really loyal. I love it. He's like a little brother. He's just like, and you're like, what? You're like the big brother for everyone. She's like, yeah. If that's the case, that makes you everyone's big sister out of our group, doesn't it? She's like, you got a point there. As she's like sort of just like walking alongside him as they make it to the church, as it's like as they have a greeter at the front door. It's like, oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. They welcome inside as Deku's like, oh, what time do you have to be home, by the way? She's like, my parents gave me a bit of an okay to stay out later, since they knew I was hanging out with you. My dad has actually come to like you quite a lot. And she's like, really? He's like, I wouldn't expect anything. Like, I know, stereotype of dad not liking a daughter's first boyfriend, but, my dad's a bit different when it comes to that. He's like, oh, that's good to hear. She's like, yep. My mom's the furious one, though. He's like, wait, what? She's like, oh, yeah. She got very, very protective of me. And also wanted me, as she put, quote unquote, to be her little girl forever, as Deku's like, so that's what that's like. He's like, He's like, nothing. He's like, Midoriya, you can talk to me if you want. He's like, told you before Gang Orca adopted me, I was with another group, but before that, as I'll say, Deku hasn't talked to her about Sister Josephine, actually. He's like, I had another person before the gang I ran with. He's like, really? Who? It's like, her name was, Sister Josephine. This was before the foster system or anything of that sort. I was sort of traveling along with her. As he actually... I'm falling off my bed. Sorry. As he goes on to explain that Sister Josephine was his introduction, you could say, into being treated nicely. Like when the school kids started, or the kids at the little orphanages that they would go round to, as she's like, wait, you were an orphanage? She's like, oh yeah. You know the classic story, a baby abandoned on the steps of an orphanage. Sister Josephine was just starting out then too. I grew up with her. She was like my big sister, pretty much. Hell, I would actually call her more close to my mother. And, when she wanted to go, I was joint at her hip. I would not be left behind. She knew that, so she decided to bring me along with her. I followed her everywhere. She even taught me more and more about God and everything. It was great. As Deku actually explains that he always felt like he was never alone, since he was explained to Sister Josephine that, in a way, when you accept God into your heart entirely, that when you allow his spirit to fully possess you, let's just use that word, probably not the best word, is that it's a feeling of never being alone. As he goes on to explain to her that that's how Sister Josephine taught him, that God is loving, kind, forgiving, all-knowing, that whole thing you get told, pretty much, right off the bat. And that God would never abandon Deku. So Deku held on to the belief tight, knowing, not just thinking, that he would never be alone. As Deku actually somewhat gets like a teary eye remembering it, where he first had his comprehension of it. As he actually gets a lot more open. As Suyu would notice this, that he's a lot more open when he's talking about his sort of a bit of the religious experience that he's had, and especially about Sister Josephine. She thinks that may just be with her, but then again, she thought about it and she's like, he's talked to Grundy about this before. So he may have opened the stuff up to Grundy that nobody else knows. As Deku, as that is actually true. Grundy actually got really curious about, because he saw Deku read the book, his Bible, that was, remember, given to him by Josephine. He actually remembers Deku reading that one day when Grundy went over to his house once. And as Deku and him were just chilling in the living room, Deku was reading it as Grundy got interested and actually started asking about it. As he's like, boss, what's that? It says the Holy Bible. It's like, Bible. As he's like, oh yeah, what is it? He's like, it's the Bible. As Deku was confused by it, as Grundy, what's it about? It's like, God? As Deku was, again, confused, as in, Grundy's like, who's God? As Deku's like, alright, we may have to start from the beginning. As he sat Grundy down and actually read the Bible to him. Anytime Grundy had a misunderstanding or something, Deku would somewhat dumb it down, since the Bible has old way of speaking. I think it's the old way, Old English, since I have one and mine is English, has some different ways of speaking than during Grundy's time. So Deku will dumb it down and explain it more slowly and clearly to Grundy. As that's what they did for an entire day. Deku would just read the Bible to Grundy. And Grundy said he liked the Bible. It was a good book. As Deku's like, well, maybe I could get you your own Bible. He's like, Grundy would like that. As we cut back over to Suyu and Deku. As Kevin and them are like, what are they doing? As Grundy's as they're looking at Grundy, as he's standing outside the church, as he gives somewhat of a quick prayer, as they're like, Grundy just prayed. It's like, what is this? As they're rubbing their heads, they're like, well, as Kevin, Mamba, and Habuko are like, well, we've seen almost everything. We see Grundy praying. We see Deku and Suyu on a date. What neck? Is All Might gonna fall out of the sky? As in they hear, I am. No, I'm joking. As they're just as actually, Manbat starts looking in the sky. It's like, I'm expecting it, to tell you the truth. While everything's been going, I wouldn't deny it. As Kevin's like, shh, they're coming out. As it's been let's say a nice little 30 to 45 minutes since they came out. As Suyu says that they should probably start heading home because it's going to take a while for them to get back. As they come out, and Suyu's actually really happy that Deku opened up to her about a lot of stuff. Because, like I said before, she feels like maybe not a lot of people know about this. Maybe not even, maybe his gang and Grundy, maybe. Because she's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Grundy may know more about Deku than even me. Or even Gang Orca. Oh my goodness, this is so crazy. As again, that is true. Since Grundy really isn't one to speak a lot, I'll say that he doesn't give out that much information. Especially since Deku asked him not to tell anybody, and Grundy's like, boss asked me not to tell. Grundy won't tell. As that's the sort of role he follows. As we get to where Deku is escorting Suyu home, and how that goes. Dog. Good boy. Sleep. Yes, yes. Pets for you. Scratchy, scratchy, scratch. Don't claw me. Anyways, as Deku and Suyu walk home, they actually enjoy it. As Deku and Suyu are about halfway to her home, she actually grabs onto Deku's hands. Since, again, they're, bigger than hers, she, sort of wraps her hand around, two of his fingers. As Deku's just like, oh, God, this is embarrassing. She's like, you're asking me. I feel like I'm walking with a child. I'm like a child walking with her father. It's just like, as he looks at their size difference, he's like, oh yeah, because Suyu comes like right below his like chest. He's like, man, I am taller than you, if I believe. Believe at this moment, Deku's almost. Let's just say he's going to be at the cap he will be for the time being in the series, which will be a little bit shorter than All Might. Which All Might's 7'2", Deku would be like 7'11", maybe 7 foot. As Deku's like, and Suyu's a tall one as well, so I'll say she probably would be tall considering like the frog leg, since she's part frog. Frogs have pretty big legs. That's my guessing on this. I'm all saying this she'll be proportionate instead of like freakishly long legs. As Deku's like, what an odd world we live in. As he's walking by, there's the video incomplete. I'll yawn. As they eventually arrive home, Suyu gives him quick, like, stretches out her tongue as they're saying their goodbyes. She gives him, like, a little touch on the cheek with her tongue as he's like, was I just kissed? She's like, as everyone else is watching him, it's like, Abuko's like, did she just kiss him? As Kevin's like, I don't know. She's a frog girl. I guess that's what they do in kissing. As Grundy's like, boss got kissed. She laughs at that. As Man Bat's just like, man, that's weird. How? As he's thinking about it, he's like, what would it be like? As Kevin's like, shut up. I do not want to think about it. She's like, as Man Bat's, you haven't even, nope. Shut up. Or I'll have Grundy sit on you. As Grundy's like, sit on Man Bat again. Free chair. Nice feeling. As Man Bat's like, alright, I shut up. So they watch Deku leave. So they're like, well, that's a night well done. Don't you think, boys and girl? It's like, yeah. Oh, we'll watch him from now on. As that's where I think I'm going to be ending this one off at. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hope you guys can enjoy this. And some of you guys think I have a burnout. It's just that, I'm going to be honest, I'm a lazy little turd. And I just haven't felt the want or urge to just do it on the computer. So I'm doing a couple more on my phone to get the mojo back. I think that's probably what it is. Even though I don't do that much with the computer. I want to get my mojo back real quick. But anyways, hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you guys have a nice day, nice night, nice life.